This is Special Report.
Black holes are one of the strangest things in existence.
Neil Armstrong may have seen extraterrestrials on the moon.
When he spies a discernible shape.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there. And no one, no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Full Spectrum Universe. This is day 2 of this week that we're doing. So we got a lot of product coming out today. We got a lot of people to talk to. I just wanted to say thank you for everybody who's coming through tonight, whoever is watching it now or may watch it in the future. Many blessings, Grand Rising. And yeah, let's get right into what we're doing today. We're going to be talking to a very special guest. She's going to be a speaker at the upcoming event, Humanity Unplugged, the Global Forum of Human Awareness. It's going to, I know it says 111. This is a bit of an older poster. We're redoing the poster now, but we have almost 121 people so far, which is going to break the record of consciousness events. So you can go to projectionofview.com, sign up for your section, and donations will be allowed into the back. We are going to be streaming across 8 major platforms. It's going to be, the potential of audience could be upwards of 500,000 people. So it's going to be a pretty epic 8-day event. We've done these before, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, we have a sponsor on the event that we have coming up by the name of Paul Anthony Wallace. You all know him from coming through, and the Eden series, The Scars of Eden, Escaping from Eden, and soon to be released, The Echoes of Eden, the 3rd installment of the Eden series. You can go to paulanthonywallace.com. You can pre-order your book today. It is an amazing series. So definitely, if you like paleo contact and talking about ancestral knowledge and stories, this is definitely one of the ways to go through it. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Tamara Caulder Richardson, aka the Southern Belle Medium. Tamara is a 6-time near-death experiencer, or NDEer, multiple spiritual transformative experiencer. She saw Christ in the flesh in July of 2017, Christ channeler, Christian minister, mystic seer, and international evidential intuitive medium. Tamara is born in Hickory, North Carolina, and she was born with the gift of sight. Tamara believes that her 6 NDEs have enhanced her ability to see into the hidden realms. Tamara has also trained for 8 years in the British style of evidential mediumship, and international TV mediums and authors such as John Holland, UK's Tony Stockwell, and certified as an advanced psychic medium by UK TV medium celebrity Lisa Williams. Tamara currently does medium stage shows for women's expos, like the Southern Women's Show at the Convention Center before large audiences of 30,000 people in a weekend, and with 2 shows a day, and has a loyal following that came back each year. We go a little bit further into who she is. She is also the president of IANDS Charlotte, ISGO facilitator, and on to Spiritual Awakenings International, which is SAI, advisory board, marketing chair, and speaker for both. She is also a past keynote presenter at the Edgar Cayce Center teachings at the 2028 Psychics Conference for a day mediumship. As a spiritual teacher, Tamara understands the transition from life to death, and we are a spirit, and we are a soul that lives in a body and then moves on to more teaching on the other side. Tamara is directed by God and Christ and works only in love and light. And as a daily routine, she prays to God with thankfulness. Tamara also is an ordained Christian minister and devoted follower of Jesus Christ. Tamara is the popular host of a YouTube channel called Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience, and Other Phenomena. So with that being said, let's bring Tamara in. Hi, Tamara. How are you today?
Hi, it's so good to see you, Rob.
I know
Wow.
we've had a couple conversations, and now we get to see each other finally. And we saw I saw your work, and I said, you know what, you have to come to our major event. So it's really great that you're here tonight because now people who may not know you in our audience, I know you have a tremendous audience and people know you, but some of the people that may not know your side of the coin, you get to expose yourself to those people, and then in turn they expose to you. So it's really great. And I want you to tell us in your words a little bit about yourself and also how this all started for you.
Oh, wow. That's a mouthful. First of all, I want to thank you for being here, Rob, and I also want to thank you for putting this conference together. What a massive consciousness raising event, and I am just so proud to be a part of it and to meet so many new people. I am just so thrilled. And wow, I mean, when you decide to
Thank
help
you.
out, Mother, Father, Gaia, and, and the divine, you don't play, do you?
No, no, we go in and we're serious. We do a lot of these events throughout the year. Last year we did a 55 speaker event. It lasted 5 days. So we figured we had to top that this year. And we were like, let's go for the record. Let's see if we could put on the biggest consciousness extravaganza that's ever been. And one of the things that, we thought it would be difficult to get people, but it wasn't. It was very easy. And we actually have, I want to say about half the people coming on, we've never spoken to before. So we know of their work, but they're new speakers. So we're gonna, we have some of the tried and true people that have come through our channels, but people are going to be exposed to a lot of different thoughts, much like yourself. And I think it's incredible because now we get the full picture of that coin, right?
Yeah. No, well, I think that if we all come together with our own stories and all we can do is talk about ourselves, that's that we're an expert in ourselves, then together we can begin to build and to weave this blanket of consciousness, and that people can start tapping into their own. And, I'm a big encourager of people to think for themselves and to be, God has given you enough source, whatever you want to call it, has given us all enough ability and our own GPS to be able to figure things out. If we just stop listening to the news and this and that, things that are maybe upsetting, or even people around us that are upsetting, and tune in and listen to ourselves. And if, during this conference, if there are things that people really get excited about, then maybe that'll propel them to go into their own spiritual practice more, or to find out more about it. So this really is the age of they say Aquarius, but it's the age of enlightenment again. So
I
and a
truly
new
agree.
dawn. Yes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And one of the things that's great is this is that's our intention, is to bring people enough where it gives them that drive to really go and search it out for themselves, because my discernment will be different than other people's discernments.
Right.
And when we bring those two discernments together and tell the story to each other, we get a different perspective, which in turn helps us understand it a whole lot better.
Absolutely. And plus, too, you're creating a platform that people are free to be themselves. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. And one of the things that, I've been listening and hearing Jesus since my NDEs. And by the way, anyone listening, I did not come from a religious family, so I don't really know him in that sense. So, I get both sides. I get people that think that I'm a heretic because I'm not bringing through exactly the way they expected, from their tradition or whatnot. And then I get other people that are like, oh, finally, thank goodness. It's kind of how I know I'm like a regular person. But he explains things to me as sometimes in metaphors, and he loves flowers. And he told me at one point, he said, and I believe I actually have this exact one where he really goes into flowers. It's all free. It's ChristAcademyOfLove.com. It's free. ChristAcademyOfLove.com. Totally free channel messages. But one of them, he goes into flowers. He really gets to it. This is me speaking. And I actually cut out the first part, which was in Aramaic. That kind of weird. And one person translated it and said, it was like scripture stuff from the Bible. I went,
That's awesome.
I know.
Have you
And
ever
it's cool.
spoken Aramaic before?
Well, if I did, I didn't know I was. I mean, it's not
Right.
like I know what that is. But I was in this, you know, there are different levels of trance and channeling. And so in this point, I was in my home. It was private. I was recording it. So I was in this, I became in this kind of euphoric state. I'm laying on the bed. I've been meditating and I didn't know what it was, and then I went into this thing where he starts talking about flowers. And what he talks about is that he said, imagine if someone gave you a bouquet of flowers and it was all daisies. He said, it'd be nice. He said, but wouldn't it be more exciting if you had fuchsia Gerber daisies, you had African violets, you had wildflowers, tulips. And he said, because that's how I see all of you, as beautiful and unique. And you're more special when you come together in that beautiful bouquet. How interesting is that? And that's how I love that, because that, to me, we should, you know, we're all one, but yet we're here expressing, you know, the divine through us in our own unique way, and that's beautiful too. But when he also talks about flowers, he says, don't the flowers come back every season? So do we. We live forever. And he said, don't the flowers, he said, some pollinate and some will gravitate to other areas like other planets or whatever. But and he explains it. I'm like, it makes sense. It's kind of, it really is like nature. It's a natural way of things that we come together, that we flow apart and flow back together, and that we are pollinated and we're reborn into other areas, just much like the flowers, and how he explains how they make the fields more beautiful.
I think that's absolutely correct too. It's such a beautiful way to do it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just had to say it. It's just a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah, that's how we're seeing to Christ, and he sees us all as, he's just, I don't know, it's a very unusual combination. It's not a human thing. It's not really human, but he looks at us like we're his best friends, but also like his children. It's very unusual. There's no one that can do anything wrong with him. He like takes up for everybody. But you know, it's just since I had my NDEs in particular, I can't help it. It's just something I don't really try. I just hear what he has to say, and he's actually very funny. And he's sarcastic, because you got to think about it. When he was walking the earth at the time that we know him as walking the earth, although he's still walking the earth, he tells me, he said, I'm among you now. But but let's think back when, you know, Bible days, when he was walking the earth. I mean, he was kind of a renegade, right? I mean, he was talking about love and coming together. And back then there was the authorities at hand, right? People with greed that made money off of others. They cared very little about human life. And he was trying to tell everyone that they were spiritual and they were from something bigger. Of course, they didn't have the words we have now, but is that not the same mission that we're doing now? Is it not the same thing to spread the, you know, that we all have that divine love in all of us, and then we're all capable of great things? So he's still not in style. I'm gonna be honest. He's still not. I mean, because what did he say? If you're of me, and he said, if you're like me, they won't like you. You know, because you're talking about the purest intent of who we are, and who we are as immortal.
I totally agree with you, Ed. And you know, I one of the things that gets me too is, you say that they're not very liked, and a lot of it comes from their own congregations too. Like when they read the Bible, if you're it's supposed to be a book of interpretation, right? A cataloged account of interpretation and what you take from each story. But if you don't see it their way, you're not interpreting it right, and then therefore you get kind of like lambasted from those people, which is something that I call that dogmatic, systematic religion. It's you know, there's and this is where I make a difference, where there's faith and church, because faith is based in something that's immutable and this creator. Church is run by man, and man is fallible, just like everybody else, right?
Yes.
So there's this big there's a big difference for me in faith. I was raised Roman Catholic. I've since strayed away from that church style, because if I'm going to, my higher power is the Roman Catholic God, but if I'm going to do business with God, I do it one-on-one. I don't need a congregation of people to do it.
It's
right?
so funny. I love it. Yeah, I could not agree more. Well, as Jesus said, I did this series back in March. March, I didn't want to, but it was March 2020. It was March 17th. It's always the 17th. I don't know why. Maybe he picks the same date because I'm really bad on dates, remembering, so I can remember. But he came to me and he said, I want you to carry my messages. And I went, no. He asked me again. A day later, I said no again. And finally, I was like, I really hate to say no a third time. So I ended up doing this thing, Jesus Speaks, which is also in that Christ Academy Lab, or also one of my channels in the Seeking Heaven. You can see it. And it was amazing because I really didn't know much about, like where things are in the Bible, the scripture. So I really just didn't know that. But he would say, First Peter, so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I don't know. And I would look at it after he gave me the message, and I would write it down. I first was doing it live, and it was too stressful. He said, we can just write it down. So I'd write it down. And he was waking me up in the middle of the night. And that was stressful. He said, let's just sit in a comfortable place, maybe outside, and I'll tell you. And then when I would look up what he gave me, it was exactly what he said. But basically, he said, man will lie to you. And he said, but I will never lie to you. I am your best friend. He said, you can ask me anything. So he's my go-to. I ask him everything. And he tells me everything. You can't get in too much trouble if you bring him along, because he'll totally, I have gone many places with him. Now I'm not just Jesus channeling Astor of the Galactic Federation, which Jesus hangs out with him, by the way.
This is one of the things that I love, is how you go in from this faith-based position to this expanded universe and talking about, Palladians and Syrians. And this is where, I love it, because we all know that there's a synchronicity and connection for everything. So
Yeah.
to see this is, and when we try and go back and look at the older style religions from medieval times, and ancient cultures, we like to think of it as them trying to explain awareness. It's their awareness and their creator and their ability to, I guess, tap into their consciousness, or that awareness within their consciousness, and then find that higher power, I guess is a way to say it. If I'm saying it, I don't know if I'm saying it quite right, but I think it's really wild on how you bridge that gap. And I think it's really awesome, because a lot of people, they feel that you have to have one or the other, and they're not mutually exclusive.
Well, we're not one or the other. For us, we're here right now because we think that we're here, but we're probably on other planets at the same time. We're also here right now.
Agreed.
Hello. All right. Okay. Because if we are spirit, and spirit is eternal, and spirit can be in multiple places. And I know that because I'm an evidential medium. I've been talking to spirits since 3, the nice ones, like your family members, like just regular people. And I just could always hear them, I guess, because of my NDEs very early on from childhood. And my NDEs were in childhood. It was, had a prenatal, didn't know that was 1, 3, 4, 5, 10, and 28. So I had a lot of them as a child. So that whole world opened up. I had no one to talk to, like ghosts, spirits, this, that. Different levels. I've seen angels. I've seen demons. I've seen, it's all these layers of things. But if we are truly spirit, and spirit is ongoing, it can be in multiple places, then we are spirit, and our higher self is in the higher etheric realms, or wherever that would, celestial realms. But then we would also really ideally be in other places too, controlling other bodies, because why couldn't we? We just have to pretend that we can't do that, because that would be really complicated. And then we're going, well, what about that guy, in Orion? It seems like he's doing better than me. We might get a little jealous, or we might be confused by certain things. But I'm saying that we're not linear. We're not linear. And also, is time linear? As time goes on, I feel that our consciousness brings forward in this holographic universe, meaning that it responds to our thoughts. That's why even when I do readings, I was telling a lady today, I had a really great reading with her, do the medium, but then I go up to Akashic Record, if someone's open to that. But she's deep, so she got a lot of deep stuff. But see, if she wasn't deep, spirit wouldn't give her something that she would feel uncomfortable with. But if someone says, hey, why am I not communicating with the higher level ETs? Why am I not so-and-so seeing a spaceship? Well, guess what's going to happen? probably in the next day or two or a week or this month. You're going to see it because you just asked for it in the universe and it's going to supply that to you. But certain people are not interested in that, or they're not at all interested, and that's not going to be presented to them. So I think right now, as consciousness, as us coming together, much like your Humanity Unplugged, by us coming together, and I say, I reject authoritarianism. I reject anger, hate, riots, control. And I support a love revolution. And everybody else goes, yeah, me too. I support a love revolution. I'm all about helping people. I'm about a utopian universe. Then together, our consciousness, because we're powerful spiritual beings, starts creating and manifesting in the world a better place. Because I don't have to agree with something just because I see it or hear it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it's funny, just to show proof to what you just said is, my fiance is not into this side of life, what we do. And for a long time, I always thought to myself, I really wish that she would see something with me there to explain it to her that would
Yeah.
make her question everything.
Hmm.
And it happened. And
Really?
she was like, well, I don't know what I saw. And she's not fully on board with it, but she can't explain it. And she knows that.
That's cool.
And I think that I was the one who manifested that into reality because I wanted to connect with her on that level. Because we do a lot of sharing in these shows and talking about what we feel, and it's really wild to see that come into action, I guess is to say, and see her reaction to that. And I think it was really incredible. And she's still not into this lifestyle. She is a faithful churchgoer as well, but so she kind of is, but isn't, like,
Hmm.
not directly related to what we do, but in some way expanding her consciousness and her
Yeah.
ability to have that awareness of something greater than herself. And, you know, we're actually getting married in June, and she's put up with a ton of stress. And I told her, if you keep speaking about the negative and talking about what's wrong, you're going to bring that
Mhm.
into existence.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to do the positive. And she finally got to listen to me, and it was
Mhm.
starting to work for her.
Right.
Things were clicking and coming together. And, it's also about conditioning your brain to think like that too, because
Mhm.
a lot of the programming that we get from outside of ourself is negative, and we have to be able to
Absolutely.
distill that to get
Mhm.
back to our, like, factory settings, right?
That's so cute. I love that reflector. Oh, that's so cute. I love it. You're exactly right. Well, here's the thing. I'm not a stupid person. Like I'll look at anything. I mean, if someone says the Teenage Ninja Turtles they've landed, they're taking over the world, I would go, okay, let me see, let me check it out. I mean, I'll look at anything and see if there's any truth behind it. And I understand there's some nefarious things in the works and blah blah blah. And I've done my little research, but that doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with that. But you follow what I'm saying? I can say
Of course.
someone may in the schoolyard decide they're going to take you out and punch you, but you can decide. You know what?
I don't want to do
If you
that.
you say I don't want to do that. I'm not going to go to the schoolyard. Or you can say, look, I know martial arts and I know how to actually move away from all your punches, and I'm just going to wear you out. And you're not even going to be able to hit me because I know how to move past them. People that know punches, they can move. They can actually not block it, but move away from the punch if you've practiced enough. So we don't have to be in agreement. But I think what's happened here, and this is this kind of sad part, let's don't cry. It is a bit sad, is that people have given their power away, and
Hmm.
they have forgotten that they're powerful, and they're connected by their birthright to the divine, to mother, father, God, source, creator, all of that. And that we are also part of creation. They've forgotten all these things. So they've given it away to the so-called authorities. I feel like I should do that like Austin Powers.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
and so here they are, and they feel like that they're some people are waking up at a faster rate, and some people are waking up at a slower rate. But getting back to like the religion issue, I'm sure everybody knows people that are more dogmatic. I tell people that Jesus, the dogmatic Jesus, is still him. The starseed Jesus, it's still him. The mystical Jesus in India, it's still him. So, haven't you had a friend and they're your movie going buddy, but then you don't really do much else with them? So
Right.
it's okay. I don't want to take away someone's version of what makes them feel comfortable. And if that's someone's truth where they are, then I don't want to take that from them. But what I do tell people to do, I said, take Jesus with you. You want to go to yoga, you think it's kind of strange, bring him with you. I mean, people go, what do you mean? I'm gonna bring him with you. Ask him to come with you.
Yeah.
And if it gets too weird and the people you don't like, or it doesn't feel like it's for you, I'm just making something up, then, you'll find out. And so, what I don't think is healthy is for any of us to rely upon another person, whoever that may be, to tell us what's best for us when we're a PhD in ourselves. We
I
know
agree.
what we need and want, and we don't need to be listening to other people to tell us what's best for us. When I'm pretty darn sure we come with that already, like you say, in factory settings, I think we kind of already know.
They reprogram you to get you away from your factory settings, and that's
Mhm.
one of the things that has always intrigued me about the human existence in us, is finding these ancient civilizations that were so in tuned and tapped in, and then they just wipe their knowledge from the face of the earth, but they still leave breadcrumbs for people to go and find it. And that's one of the things that got me into this, I guess, this field of what we do, and exploring who we are. Because every time that I look at something that's historical or a consciousness based concept, I'm working on myself. As much as it
You're
may be
right.
about them, I'm working on
Yeah.
me, and that's a
Yeah.
transformation of me and how I see
Yeah.
things because of what they've done. It's sort of experiencing it kind of through their eyes. Like right now I'm going through symbolisms and codes, and how codes and numbers are planted in so many different things, from logos to
Yeah.
society, and
Mhm.
and you see the patterns, and how it can be used. There's a balance to it. There's good and evil, right? Like we always see.
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
looking more towards the evil side now, because
Mhm.
I feel like I've got a grip on the good side a little bit. So I want to see what
Right.
they're doing, because to know thy enemy is to know oneself, right? Like, so you have to really know
Oh,
what they're doing,
oh,
and keep an eye
I'm with
on it.
you. I'm look, you okay, yeah, come on now. You're preaching because I'm right with you. I mean, hey.
Right,
Look, if someone's going to try to kill you, don't you want to know who that is? Hello.
right.
And people go, "Oh, I don't want to know," and I'm like, I've done that before in past lives. I've done about 300 hours of past life, and we've been all things. I've done many on other planets. It didn't seem real at the time till I got in March, accidentally, DNA activation. It was totally an accident. I didn't know what it was. It felt really relaxing at the time till I started to remember I'm a blue Syrian. And then the next time I had another that was really great. I had another one. I was in April, and and then I had, I think, another one in May. Anyway, the second two times, and ever since, I glowed, like I literally glowed, like glow. And I was like, that is so cool. I was like, look, am I glowing? Is my hand glowing? And they're like, yes, because there's I think it has to do with where more especially star people, they're more luminescent. They're not from
Yes.
here. And when I remembered, it turned something on. But getting back to symbols, I've been looking at what is it? I believe it's Jordan Maxwell on Gaia. That blew me away. If you haven't seen that,
I've seen
it
pieces of it. I haven't seen the whole thing yet.
man, it is wild. And like where certain things in the Bible and astrology, people go, oh no, that's so evil. The whole Bible is astrology all through it. I mean, the whole thing is all astrology. And he pieced it out and explained it, and how our symbology, what it used to mean, what it means now. It's very good. But the DNA stuff, after I had all my DNA activations and so forth, accidentally, seriously, I don't know how that happened. I just thought I was getting a healing session. But I started drawing these light codes. So my husband is like your fiance, and he's really sweet, nice guy, but he always goes, I'm just not like you like that. I don't see things. I don't know this stuff. I don't know. He finds it interesting. Like he'll watch, UFO shows with me or certain things, or we've seen all the paranormal shows, and he would do that, but he just like, no, I don't know. I just can't. I don't experience things. But we were going to Asheville in August, and it was him that pointed it out. He goes, look at that. I don't know why I didn't see it. It was huge UFO. And he goes, look at that. And it was red, and it looked like it was like on fire. It was round, and there were several to the left, and then it came beside me, and he pointed it out, but I had the strangest reaction. Normally when you hear about this, you think, oh, grab your camera. I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking I was so emotionally.
You were enthralled by it. You were staring at it and being in the moment, right?
I was, yeah, but it was, yes. But even on top of that, which was really bizarre, I would have never expected. I wanted to cry. I felt like it was my family and I wanted them to land. And
Maybe
I
it
had
was.
it must have been because it was, what a weird reaction, right? That's really
I think
weird.
that's pure and genuine, and I think that's incredible. I think that there is some sort of connection. I always trust my instinct and gut. When I feel something is either off, on, or indifferent, I
Mhm.
know that I'm on the right path.
Yes,
It's
good
the
for you.
strangest thing. I'll be like, oh,
Mhm.
yep. I know I'm doing the right thing now. I know I'm
Yeah.
doing the right thing, but that's
And
awesome.
and the thing is, your fiance is watching you. We all have either we're the person that's the forefront or we're someone usually that isn't. We're all kind of like that. We know people and they're watching us because some people don't want to take the lead in things, but you're a warrior. You are.
I
You've
like to
always
think
been.
so.
You're a fighter. You're a fighter and used to
Definitely.
box. Used to box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I
Yeah.
definitely used to box. Yeah, I was actually really good at boxing too, but
Hmm.
gave that up a long time ago. Long
Yeah.
time ago. Many moons ago.
But you have a confront level that most people don't. I got not that many years ago. It took me 8 years, but I got a black belt in combative Hapkido, American combatives,
That's
and two
awesome.
broken bones later. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to prove I could do it, and it would be handy to have. It was great exercise and all of that too, but it made me not feel like a victim and more to be like a conqueror.
Hmm.
And so, do I want to hurt anyone? No, I don't want to hurt anyone. But a lot of really the martial arts is also about healing, moving out of the way, moving with the motion, and so forth. But getting back to the whole dogma and so forth, I think that the fascination that a lot of people have with these near death experiences is that it brings in those dogmatic, I say dogmatic people, but the traditional
Yeah.
religious people, or maybe the ones that are not, they're not really sure, what they are. It brings those people in because the curiosity, they feel like it's safe because most of the people that have these are just generally normal people, right? They're just regular, could be anybody. And I think that's been a big fascination with NDEs. And so I think the big encouragement there is to let people know their spirit. A lot of people don't know they are. They actually think that they're just this body.
Right.
And that's the first step, right? I mean,
What
you got to know you're a spirit before you can even think there's anything beyond this world. You have to understand that. And I think that helps with that.
I'm sure it does. One of the questions I have for you about the NDEs is did it happen in stages? Like the first NDE was one thing, the second one was something different, and it gave
Mhm.
you something different, or was it like this crescendo effect where it was leading up to that last one, which opened everything?
I think the second one. That's a really good question. I've never been asked that. I think it's the second one, crescendo.
That's you see, that's wild too. It's like it was
Mhm.
setting you up
Setting me
to
up.
be able to
Mhm.
essentially accept what was to come next.
Yeah.
Which is what our psyche does and our psychological profiles and our spirit and our consciousness. It sets us up for what's going to come because it
Mhm.
knows. Like you said, time isn't linear like we think. It's
Mm-mm.
and we have this ability that are it's the higher self, and even if it's different
Mhm.
dimensions or different planes of existence, our higher self is that operator. If this was a telephone company, that's the operator. And then it's the lens at which all of our experiences go back through source. They all get collected
Yeah.
at the higher self. That's why it is the higher self.
Yes.
And we ask
Yeah.
that higher self for, I say, we'll say with like a vice, because he's seen it, done it, been it, all of it, right? On every plane. So it's really wild to think about getting yourself prepared for what it is, the work that you do now. And I think that there was a lot that was happening in your environment and the universe, making sure that you were prepared. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. At the time you don't think about it. Well, I have, my first one, prenatal, my mom didn't quite make it. I remember being a spirit person, watching her. She was losing a lot of blood, the whole scenario. And that's on Spiritual Awakenings International.org. If someone wants to see the whole PowerPoint thing of the whole thing in detail, because I'm not going to go there, but of all my 6 near-death experiences. But I remember being spirit, and I remember being more concerned about her, and I just felt a lot of love. That's all. And then I was 3, I was playing, and there was an nail under a dresser, and I was jumping up and down, running, trying to find a place to hide as my cousin was counting to hide, and the nail went through my head. And then I passed out and saw beings of light and I saw from different viewpoints. I saw outside the house, in the house, different places above my body, all over the place at one time. And then at that point, I saw my guardian angel, which at the time I didn't know what that was, but she was called Uriel, which is the fire of God, which I'm also a fire sign. I really, really like that. The fire of God, that's pretty tough, right? But it was Uriel. I didn't know such a thing until later what that was. But I do remember Uriel, but I wasn't really sure. And then I was told to come back, that I had much to do. And then at 4 was an incident where I was in a car wreck. The car, my mom was wanted me to meet, really, but it was a guy she was interested in, a DJ, and ended up being my stepdad. But it was a bad day, snowy, icy, and he sped out of he was a DJ, so we went out to eat, whatever, went past the station. As he went out, he was speeding up because they were arguing. She wanted to get married. He wanted to wait till they had more money. And so he put on the brakes. We spun around and hit a tree. And I went through what they would consider a tunnel. I think it's a portal. I think it's a portal, but I didn't have a body. So it was really confusing at first, because when you just don't have a body, that is a little disordering.
I would say so. Yes, very much.
I'm thinking I'm just like I normally am. Where's the rest of me? And so then I saw Jesus come up through that tunnel, which I think was a portal, and he had relatives behind him. Even though I didn't know them, I knew they were my relatives. And he had his hand stretched out, his hair was blowing back. And then he told me that I had to go back. And I was like, no, I don't want to go back. And I felt like I had an insight into the future at that moment too. And I was like, no, I can't do this. And he said, you can and you will. And when I came back, I wasn't back in my body. I was around and about, and I could see like a rip in time, and it looked like fiery, like it was like a God portal. And beside was Uriel. And then I looked across where the park should have been frozen over, and I saw people there, like a Native American family grilling a fish, and someone from the 1800s, a couple walking with a baby carriage, a hot air balloon. Well, nobody was out. I mean, it was a bad day with ice. Nobody was out. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at different dimensions. Am I looking at past events? I don't know. That's what I saw. And
Right.
then behind me, there was a fire station, and it was an older one. And then I saw all these men in old timey fireman outfits. And then I saw about 200-300 spirit people around. And then a lady leaned in the car and said, it was a spirit woman, nobody saw her but me, and said that the car was kind of wrapped around the tree. They were okay, but I went through the windshield because I was 4, so my body was little.
Right.
But she stepped in and said, oh, my grandmother, is my mom, blah, blah, blah. And so at that point, I saw spirit people at 3 and talked to them, but at 4, it just opened the lid off. And then at 5 was the one where I had pneumonia and a strep throat, died on the way to the hospital, and saw, and then went to heaven 3 days with Jesus. I mean, that's what it looked like. It was paradise. That's what it looked like. I mean, it It was beautiful. Everything was really colorful, and I didn't want to come back at all. And he said my mother needed me, and I'm like, she'll be fine. So she'll get over it.
Like, I'm staying. No,
Yeah,
no, thanks. Thanks, but no thanks.
this is
Sorry, not sorry.
tough here. Yeah, this is a lot better. Yeah, they're here. I think I'd rather stay. And so he told me a lot of things while I was over there in that state. And he said, okay, you can stay a while, we'll walk. And as we walked, every blade of grass followed him, and the clouds and the tree leaves and everything followed him. And then he said, we could sit over here by this tree, and it was a very big tree, and there was a rock in front, and we sat in front of it. And he says, "Now we don't eat from this tree." And I'm thinking, okay. And he said, "This is a wise tree," and it looked like dogwoods on it with little red grapes. And he said, "Now and here in this place, when we think of something, it happens immediate. But where you just came from, it takes time to manifest, to think about these things. So he said, be mindful of what you think about, because you're creating it into existence. So be mindful about that. And when you do, think of things that are positive that you want, so that can manifest. Be patient with that." And I said, but I was more stuck on, so it happens immediate here, huh? So like, how fast can I do it? And then he said, okay. And it was all telepathy, mind-to-mind communication. Then he thought of a little boat. We were in the boat, and it was a little stream. And then he said there were some fish. He swimming. He pulled one up, talked to it, put it back down. He said, that's how we fish here. So he told me a lot of principles, in life. He also said words, when you speak them, they're powerful. And he said the words have energy, and our voice has energy. And he said most people don't think about it. They also have intention behind the energy. And he said that we should speak life instead of speaking darker things, that we should speak life to one another. So like before all my readings, I asked that each person be blessed. It didn't matter if they're Hindu or whatever, everybody loves it. And that life is spoken over them, and that they're abundant and they're healthy and happy, and that God's presence be within them, and there is life spoken to them. And it's good. But we definitely don't want to be damning each other. That's not a good thing. We want to be blessing. We want to be like, speak life and vitality, because that has particles and residuals in this world. That's why you can go into a room and feel when someone's been arguing. You can feel it.
Right. One of the things I wanted to also ask you about too was, you've done a lot of work with channeling other entities too, and you've actually worked with Mark Fiorentino, one of the people we've had on the show. And would you want to tell us about that a little bit, and what that was like creating with him, and what you guys actually did? Because it was super interesting when you told me about it before.
Yeah, that's cool. Mark's wonderful. Mark is a brilliant man who wrote Masters of Reality, which is really odd, because it's one of those things, like, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you interviewed Mark. And we just found out coincident. And you said, how do you know Mark? I said, he's been a client 4 or 5 years. And you're like, what? And so when I met him, he was still writing his book, Masters of Reality, where he finished the unified field theory of Einstein. I didn't know anything about him. He contacted me because he couldn't get a hold of someone else that he knew in the Charlotte area, in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was such a fluke. Again, another accident, not an accident, because he was concerned about a bat biting him or something. And it's just.
I think he told me about that. The lady had a pet bat, and he didn't want to go there because it was like, he was afraid of it, right? Something like that. Something really wild.
He thought he got bit by a bat. He called the health department and said, don't worry about it. But he's really worried because you can die of that. Anyway, It was actually a ridiculous reason why, he didn't tell me, but that's what was his real reason for contacting. It was just some really ridiculous reason. And so I remember I didn't know anything about him. And like most of the time it's cold. Reading. I don't know. I know Mark and his wife was there, and all his relatives, a bunch of relatives came through, a bunch of names, some of her people. And then at the end, I'm like, I kind of started arguing with Spirit. I'm like, I can't do this. Don't ask me to do this. This is weird. And he's like, what? And I'm like, well, Einstein is here. And then he goes, really? I'm like, yeah, I know it's crazy. It's weird. I'm sorry. Because I didn't know who he was. And
Right.
he goes, no, it's okay. Go on. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, please. And I'm like, this is really okay, and I'm thinking, because it's kind of like celebrity. He's like a celebrity. Einstein's a celebrity.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's like getting Elvis. And so I'm going, okay. So he wrote out this equation for me, and he wanted me to write an equation. And first I argued with him, please don't make me do it. I failed real estate math twice. Don't make me do this equation. And so and so
I
he
probably
said,
would have said the same thing. No, math's not my strong one. Don't
math,
do it.
I like history. I like
Yeah.
English. I especially like art and music, but don't make me do this. So I wrote it out, and I said, I held it up, and Mark was laughing and crying at the same time. And I knew I didn't really know what to think of any of this. And basically he told him part of the acceleration formula he was looking for. So then he began to say that you're like brothers and how you've known one another. And I think there's a lot of coincidences in his life where they intersect in certain dates. And then he talked about about when he was a boy, he did the probability of chickens and what eggs would be hatched. And he studied chickens. And then Mark goes, I don't know about that, because you don't really think of Einstein and chickens. But the funny part about that is Spirit always like to bring up chickens with me. It's like a running thing, because I don't know, I'm from the South and I think it's funny, and I mean, that's just it. I mean, it's just kind of like a dumb thing. And so I'm like, he's like, I don't know, and told him some other pertinent information. And then he wrote me like a day later. He goes, he did look at brown versus white chickens. And he also, his standard, what he did is he said, if you wake chickens up at midnight, they can hatch more eggs. So he did have something involved with chickens. Well, like, who would know this? And then I was doing a show at the Jacksonville, Florida Convention Center for the Southern Women's Show. And I was headlining there, and I get on stage, talk about my NDs, and then I let Spirit come through. But what's great, I love crowds, is because they'll go through like the whole crowd, like, oh, you motorcycle, you don't know each other, and it was just so cool when you see whole groups of flowing through. So he was there with his wife for a couple of days, and he brought these typed sheets out, and it had all these scientific stuff on there. That's all I gotta say. And it was like little bitty typed, like singular lines. And I'm going,
font size of 8. You can't even read it.
And I'm going, I'll just glance at his paper, and they were all scientific terms, and I'm going, you can't just ask me like this. I said, okay, I got an idea. We'll just try. It was an experiment. I said, and now I have at the time, I think I had my cousin that was working the show in my booth. It's really crowded. It's crowded. It's like women's shopping area. It's crowded. It's noisy. Right. And so I can go into a trance like that, which can be handy, this is why I really have to protect my energy. But I was like, all right, let me just sit here. And I said, you be responsible for watching everything, and you wake me up at a certain time. I was like, okay, go. And so after the first question, I don't remember anything he said for an hour and a half. I really don't remember.
He was picking Einstein's brain again, right?
Well, what happened is that he has a team of famous people come to him now, but Einstein was there. And in that session we did that time, it came how stars were formed. I told him how stars were formed, how to build a Stargate, and with fractal lighting and lenses. Awesome. And I'm going, I know. And he put that in his chapter. So he went and he would research the stuff that came through. And then the planet, his logo and all that, he would say, this came up in a reading. I said, really? He said, yeah, you said that. Do you remember? I'm like, no, I don't know. And so anyhow, we kept in touch. I think he maybe have gotten some more information and reading. So what's going on now is that we're friends. And now every single time I'm around Mark, Einstein comes through. But not just him, Tesla comes through. And now Tesla's visiting me in my dreams, talking about an invention that he wants created that will help humanity. And again, it's pretty big because, what was he known for? Like, he wanted free energy. Mm-hmm. I didn't know who Tesla was. I really didn't. I'd sound ignorant. I just didn't really know. He came to me in a dream and said, aren't you that Tesla guy? And he go
Aren't
and
you the guy who used to hang out and like electrocute people and yourself?
I'm like, yeah, I didn't know a whole lot. I wasn't really into like a science groupie, so I didn't really know a lot. But I knew his face from I've seen it before, on TV or something. And he goes, yeah, and he comes through like a ladies' man,
Of course.
like he was suave back in the
He
day.
looked like it in his pictures. It looked like he was Don Juan DeMarco over there. Hair all wavy with that nice mustache. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's even given Mark like marriage advice. He said, "Let me tell you what I know about women." It was hysterical, and he says, "Let me just tell you what. Just talk about them. They don't want to hear our lot. They just want to just listen to them." And he went, but you could tell that that's how he comes through. Like yeah, I mean, that's how he comes through. And I was like, Tesla. And he said, yeah, they tried to give me a lot of money to shut me up, but I wanted free energy. And I had to look all this stuff up. And then this is his past year. And then he said, but he invented a medical invention that is UV lighting that would, at the frequency level, would clear out someone's body so they could vibrate at a certain level that would eliminate all disease and parasites.
Wow.
All disease. So I'm writing this down. He goes, it's biotransluminase. He said, some people are using it for bad things. He said, but I know the way to completely heal. Well, I was like, okay. And I wrote all this stuff down, wrote all these things down. I couldn't find anything on it. It wasn't for a couple weeks ago or so. I found something on it. Do you know he built that already? But the medical association shut him down because think about it. If it gets rid of all disease and parasites, all disease, that means they can't sell pharmaceuticals anymore.
Right.
And that's what, billions of dollars.
That's a big no-no is in their book for sure. That's I heard a lot of Tesla's inventions were like that. They were game changing, and a lot of them are all in vaults in different places where they're separated because the blueprint to build it, as opposed to what they actually tried as the prototypes, because they don't want people to understand his knowledge. He was so tapped into the universe that whatever he thought of would come to him in some trance-like state, and then in days he'd build it, if not months, if it took that long. But he was an incredible dude. Incredible.
So we're going to get a little weird. This has all been very normal. He also told me, because I'm from Syria, I'm apparently on the Angelic Syrian Council that works for the Office of Christ. You can't make this up. He said, I am also from Syria, and that's how I knew all this stuff. They've also told Mark he's not from here.
Right.
And he also said Edgar Casey was Syrian. And I was like, okay. And he said, and so I was telling a lady, Eva Martinez or something, and she's Palladian. And I said, yeah, Tesla said I'm Syrian. She goes, I wrote a book on that. I said, yeah, he's from Syria. I said, really? Because he's advanced. This is how he knows these things. So anyway, this equipment is in existence. The Europeans and Germans have already developed it. They won't allow it here unless some renegade health person manufacturer does it. But he said it's very simple to build, very cheap to build, and that would do this. And so he is okay. What's the good news on that? He's watching what's going on, and he's interacting. He's interacting, saying, "Look, I want to help out." And I'm going, Tesla, I'm not a scientist. Why are you telling me all this? He said, because you can hear me. He said, you're more than a scientist, so I don't even want to hear about it. And so, he said, because I'm getting all these light codes now. And he goes, they're not codes. He said, they're portals. He said, they're manifesting. He said, you're the key opening it. He said, they're manifestation symbols. And so they're interacting with us right now, trying to help, mainly to get us to wake up, to remember who we are. It's wild to me what's going on with this Tesla, or where it's going to go. So this is how I look at it. Yeah, there's some bad people out there. They've been around a long time. I mean, we weren't even in the womb when this has been going on so long. Okay. But I also know that my God is so awesome. He wouldn't put us here right now to fail.
No, we're right where we're supposed to be. We're meant to be here.
We're meant to be here, and we're meant win, the good guys win. So, but now I'm getting, the other side. So they're really taking note. And I've had George Harrison come through a lot. I listened to his song "My Sweet Lord" 3 days in a row. Guess who shows up for 4 hours in my in a dream? And he showed up to me several times. Yeah.
That's crazy. It's wild because it's like you said, you're manifesting what you're thinking about or what you're putting forward, and it's coming back to you, and that's insane. I love to hear
Cool.
stories of that because it's incredible, right? And it shows the potentiality for everybody to see that
Everybody.
they have this ability. They just have
Everybody.
to tap into the awareness of it. And once that awareness,
Yeah.
and of course you're gonna have to refine it and work at it, but it gives people something to work for. Just like
Right.
myself, I wish I could just turn it on like that too. I can't myself. I can't do that, but I'm working towards that now.
I think it's going to be easier than you think because you've got to turn off to turn on. So I
Yeah.
think it's this. So we got to turn off the monkey mind. You know what I mean? We got to, and our troubles or whatnot. And even if it's just for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and then you get better at it. And I'm not one to like, oh, let me zen out for hours and hours. I would rather just get it done, get her done, get into what I need. There's a fellow that I had on the Seeking Heaven channel, and it's Ted Winslow. Anyway, he develops this music. This is the binary that puts you bam right in this area of healing and all that. But what he does, he goes to these positive portals around the world, and then he makes sure his music is higher than that. And then he puts these crystals, and so he's got a studio and all this. So he said, look, I don't have a lot of time. He goes, I don't have 4 hours. I've got maybe 10, 15 minutes. He said, so he wants to get the quality of a long meditation into 10 or 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm basically an impatient person.
Right.
God knows that already. So why not don't put yourself with other people. If they want to do that, that is fantastic. But why not get the quality and just dedicate and just do it? Because I'm telling you, you don't have to have that. If you can focus and turn it off. What I do, how I do it to get into that state is I surrender. Thank you, thank you, God, for being here. I'm thankful for my breath. Because honestly, if God wanted to take us out, we'd just be gone. We wouldn't even have to have anything happen. We just leave. And I'm just in a state of gratefulness, and I surrender, and I just say, let thy will be done. And I just, surrender to God, to my higher self. Meaning, what are the lessons I need to know right now? And some of the stuff I don't even know that I need to know. That's the crazy part. Like, I wouldn't have thought this whole starseed journey, and now I'm talking to Aster and the Syrian light cancel. You know what? I would have thought it was interesting, but I would have probably laughed about this 2 years ago.
Right. You have to be ready for it. And if it would have came to you before it was your time, you would have not been ready, and then you probably wouldn't have accepted it the same way you would have now.
No. So there is a timing to things, and there's also a timing, a cosmic timingness, right? Like, we feel it now. We can feel it in our bones. That's why you're having this big event. It's because the time is now to come together. Yes. And I would say, my observation, most light workers before a couple years ago or so, they always worked independently. They're lone wolves, but not these days. They're like, look, we need to pull it together. We're going to win this game. We need to pull it together. We need to come on, kumbaya, because
we've already won, is what it is, and now we're just settling that
Beautiful.
for what it is, and putting it out there for everybody to understand that we have won, because we've reached some of not the full potential of what we're capable of, but far enough along that no matter what, they can't stop what we're doing, right? And that's a win. That's a win.
It is a win. We're still trying to get people to wake up, and let's just leave them as messages. I don't want to say prophecy, because what does that mean? I mean, that's saying there's a future, when in reality, what is our timeline? But sometimes I do get messages, but I don't always understand them. I got a recent one we'll see how the, and I'm curious as the next person. I'm like, really? What does that mean? What's going to happen? But I was told 2 months ago from Jesus, he said, March 1. He said the 1st of March. That's what he said, 1st of March. So what does that mean? March 1, the first week, like soon thereafter. He said, something's going to happen. He said, and I want you to observe. And I want you to observe people's, how they treat one another. And he said, there's something that's going to happen. You're not going to like it. That's what he said. I'm like, great. What is it? You're not going to like it. See, I love how gentle he is about things. You're not going to like it. And it'll be a series of events that's going to unfold. And he said, I want you to observe. And it's this game being played out. He said, you're not a part of it. Meaning you don't have to participate in certain bad behavior, right? Or whatever. And he said, and then I want you to witness my Father's greatness. So there's intervention that's going to happen. And I said, well, whatever this is that's going to happen, why is it necessary? He said, because it's going to take just a little bit more for those not quite awake to see it. Because they're still caught in the old ways. He said, and I'm sorry, you'll be fine. Most people will be fine. He said, but it's necessary for them. They're not quite getting it yet.
That's a lot. That's a lot. I think that is a great spot to stop this episode, because now we can leave people with something.
Ooh.
And then when you come back and in March, we can talk about it further of what happened, because the event is right after March 1st, right? So the first week of March, it's right after it. So we can check in at the event. But Tamara, I want to say it was such an honor and a privilege to have you on. And it was an incredibly great conversation. And I love what you do. And I just hope that you keep doing what you're doing and stay the course, because we need more voices like yours that bring that connectivity to everything together. And I think that we're empowering each other. So I appreciate you and respect you.
Oh, and I appreciate and respect you immensely. The first time that I think you contacted me, I instantly had so much admiration and respect for what you're doing. You are truly a warrior, and don't underestimate what you're doing, because you're putting people together in this. It really is a love revolution. You are putting people together, and you're making your voice heard to many that don't have a voice. So I thank you.
Thank you so much. Namaste. It's been an absolutely amazing episode. Thank you to everybody who is watching and will watch later on. We love you all. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We need to take that and make it our stand. And for Full Spectrum Universe, myself and Tamara, have a good night, everybody.